It's 45 degrees Celsius. There's no fan, no fridge, nothing electric for another 3,000 years. It's 400 BC. You're in the Persian desert, and you're walking to a building where, in the middle of summer, you're about to eat ice. That building was real. By the end of this video, you'll know how people made ice in a desert using mud, wind, and the night sky, and why your air conditioner made you forget 4,000 years of engineering that did all of this without a single watt. Start with the obvious problem. The sun is relentless, and you can't turn it off. So the first heat technology wasn't a gadget, it was the wall. A thick mud brick wall is basically a heat battery. It soaks up the afternoon sun for hours and doesn't let it through until night. Right when the desert flips cold and you actually want the warmth. Mesopotamian builders were exploiting that time lag 5,000 years ago. Engineers call it thermal mass. The wall doesn't block heat, it delays it, long enough for the day to end. Whole cities were shaped around shade. Streets built narrow on purpose, so buildings shade each other all day. Courtyards at the center of houses, where cool night air sinks and sits like water in a well. None of this is decoration. It's climate control you can walk through. Egyptian tomb art from over 3,000 years ago shows houses with tall triangular scoops on the roof. Wind catchers, angled to grab the north breeze off the Nile and pour it down into the rooms below. The Egyptians called it a malkuf, free wind, redirected. This idea is going to come back, bigger. Then someone noticed a thing you felt at the beach. Wet skin plus wind equals cold. Evaporation steals heat. That single observation became the ancient world's air conditioning. Egyptian wall paintings show servants fanning air across big porous clay jars. Water seeps through the clay, the breeze evaporates it, and the jar and the air around it drops in temperature. That's not ritual. That's a working evaporative cooler painted on a tomb wall. It's the same physics as sweating. Your body figured it out first. Ancient engineers just scaled it up. Hang a wet reed mat in a doorway, and every gust that passes through arrives colder. People still do this across India and the Middle East today. Honestly, I tried it on my own balcony last summer, and it works embarrassingly well. Now the masterclass, Persia. Because Persian engineers didn't just endure the desert, they beat it so completely they could serve you ice in July. That was for Zeph, Discos, for Ponit Toad. What's Koden Ella? An house is underground channels that carry mountain groundwater for kilometers, entirely out of the sun, so it arrives cold. The Khanate at Gonabad in Iran is about 2,700 years old. It still supplies the town. Today, 27 centuries of uptime. Show me one piece of modern infrastructure with that service record. Step 2. Wind. The Badger. A tall tower that catches wind high above the rooftops and pulls it down through the house. Route that airflow over the cold Khanate water first, and the room below gets genuinely refrigerated air. Zero electricity. The city of Yaz still runs on hundreds of them. Step 3. The Flex. The yakhchal. Literally ice pit. A mud brick dome over a deep shaded pit. In winter, water in shallow pools beside it freezes overnight because a clear desert sky pulls heat straight up and out. Stack that ice in the pit, insulate it, and it lasts deep into summer. Ice, made and stored in a desert, with mud. I'll be honest, I assumed all that ice had to be hauled down from mountains. Some of it was. But the shallow pool trick means some of it was made on site, on flat desert ground, using nothing but the night sky as a freezer. That one genuinely rearranged my brain. And once you can keep ice, ice becomes money. Rome ran a snow trade. Snow packed down from the Apennine Mountains, insulated in straw, stored in pits, and sold in the streets. Seneca grumbled about people paying good money for what winter gives away for free. 2,000 years before the refrigerator. Cold drinks on demand, for a price. Emperor Nero's court even had a signature drink, the decocta, water boiled first, then chilled in snow. Boiled, then iced. They'd accidentally invented safe refreshment, and they did it for the taste. But the oldest receipt is much older. Around 1780 BC, King Zimri Lim of Mari built an ice house, a bit Shuripim, on the Euphrates, and put in writing that no king before him had ever built one. 4,000 years ago, rulers were already bragging about their freezers, in cuneiform. That's not legend, that's on clay tablets. And Rome had one more heat technology, the least glamorous, and maybe the most effective, the schedule. Work at dawn, rest at the 6th hour, when the sun peaks. Hora sexta, say it fast, and you get siesta. The nap is literally named after ancient time management. So far, every trick has aimed at the surface. Thick walls, wind off the roof, water on bare skin. All of it fought the heat where the heat lives, up here, in the light. But there's a whole other direction you can run, the one we forget even exists. Down, dig a few meters into the ground, and something strange happens. The temperature just stops moving. No blazing afternoon, no cold snap at dawn. A few meters down, the earth holds one steady, cool number all year long. And medieval India looked at that free, cool cellar under everyone's feet and built staircases down into it. This is Chand Bauri in Abanari, Rajasthan, built around the 9th century. 3,500 steps, 13 stories of them, zigzagging down the walls of a giant square pit until they reached the water, about 30 meters, 100 feet, straight down. From above it barely looks real. It's actually a machine for reaching cool. Down at the floor, it runs 4 to 5 degrees cooler than the surface. So the well was never only about water. On a punishing afternoon, this was simply the coldest public room in town, and everybody knew it. And the reason is just this whole video, stacked into one hole in the ground. The earth itself is thermal mass. The deep walls throw permanent shade, and the water at the bottom mops up whatever heat is left. Shade, mass, water. 3 ideas you've already met, working together in a single staircase. And these were not rare. India built thousands of them. Baoli, Vav, Badi, a new name in every region, for more than 1,000 years. Most sit dry and forgotten now, which, if you've been paying attention, should already sound a little familiar. And they turned it into art. This is Rani Ki Vav, the Queen's Stepwell, in Patan, Gujarat, finished around 1063. A queen named Udayamati built it in memory of her husband, the king, 7 levels deep, carved from top to bottom, like an upside-down temple, with more than 500 large sculptures lining the way down. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's printed on the Indian 100 rupee note, and it was always doing 2 jobs at once, holding a town's water in reserve and offering people a cool, shaded hall to vanish into when the plains above hit 45 degrees. There's a human side to this too. Out on the open plain, there was no shade for kilometers, but down these steps, it stayed cool and quiet, so the stepwell became a gathering place, especially for the women who came for water every single day. A well, a meeting hall, and the town's air conditioning, all cut into the ground as one. I want to be careful here, because I've seen this oversold. Were stepwells built purely as air conditioning? No. First and last, they were about water. But the cool down there was never an accident, and it was never wasted. In that climate, a shaded well 30 meters deep is also just the one place you actually want to be at noon. And people used it exactly like that. Now watch the same instinct travel, all the way to the western edge of the medieval world. To a palace that didn't escape the heat by going down. It out-engineered it with running water. Granada, Spain, the Alhambra. Raised by Nasrid engineers across the 12 and 1300s on a dry hilltop with no water of its own. So they brought a river to the summit, the Ashikia Reel, a channel that carried water more than 6 kilometers from the Darro, the whole climb solved with nothing but gravity and a very carefully measured slope. No pumps. None. Then they spread that water into long, thin, still pools and slim channels running straight through the courtyards. That famous mirror pool in the Court of the Myrtles isn't only there to be beautiful. A broad sheet of water like that evaporates gently all day long. so every breeze that skims across it reaches the rooms a little cooler. It's the Egyptian clay jar trick blown up to the size of a royal court. The whole plan leans on it. In the Court of the Lions, 4 slim channels of water meet at a central fountain and cut the courtyard into quarters. A garden built around greenery, shade, and the sound of moving water, because a cool you can hear somehow feels cooler still. Sit in the middle of that in August, and the drop in temperature is completely real. Just up the hill sat the summer villa, the general life, and its court of the water channel. A long, narrow garden pool, running the whole length of it, lined with arcing jets, green shade down both sides, cool moving water down the middle. Built in the early 1300s, it's a passive cooling system you would happily move into today. And that's the part that should stop you cold. Mud brick in Mesopotamia, wind towers in Persia, staircases in India, water courts in Spain. 4,000 years, a dozen civilizations, wildly different materials, all quietly cracking the same problem, and all treating a cool building as a completely ordinary thing to know how to make. The tools never stopped working. We just stopped building them, which makes what we did next honestly hard to explain. 4,000 years, zero electricity, one skill we managed to forget, which brings us to the myth. Before air conditioning, people just suffered. Flip it. Ancient people engineered around heat for millennia. We're the ones who forgot. Deep verandas, high ceilings, cross ventilation, thick walls. Houses were still built like this a century ago. Then electricity got cheap, and we started building sealed glass boxes that are unlivable the moment the power cuts. The knowledge didn't fail. It got deleted. Here's the part I find genuinely funny. Architects today are reverse engineering badgers for passive cooling. It's cutting-edge sustainable design. The future of the field is, in places, 400 BC with better math. So that building in the desert, with ice in July. No miracle. No lost super civilization. Just people who watched wind, water, and night sky very carefully for a very long time. The question was never how they survived without AC. It's what else we've forgotten how to do. Staying cool was only half the battle. Finding enough water to stay alive, that's a bigger, stranger story, including the famous claim that everyone drank beer instead of water. It's half wrong, and the wrong half is fascinating. That's the next video. Subscribe so it finds you. And tell me in the comments, what's the hottest place you've ever tried to sleep? I read everything.